For decades, large endowments and foundations have practiced a very different approach to investing their long-term capital. Unlike the average individual investor, they don't just invest in stocks and bonds. Endowments and foundations build broadly diversified portfolios that include significant exposure to private market investments, such as private equity, private credit, and real assets. So why do endowments and foundations invest the way that they do? What does it mean to take an endowment-style investment approach? To start, endowment-style portfolios are rooted in equity investments. Equity investments, in other words, ownership stakes in growing businesses, have historically driven the highest returns over the long term. And while endowments certainly invest in public stocks, they don't limit themselves to publicly traded companies. They also invest into private companies through private equity strategies like venture capital, growth equity, and leveraged buyouts. These private market investments provide access to a much larger universe of opportunities, including high-growth companies that stay private longer. That said, in exchange for those historically higher returns, equity investments also tend to carry higher risk. Think, for instance, about the volatility that the public stock market experiences on a regular basis. To balance this equity risk in the portfolio, endowments focus on diversification. That's why endowment portfolios are typically multi-asset class, built to include multiple uncorrelated sources of risk and return. Endowment portfolios generally include some traditional fixed income, but the bulk of the portfolio's diversification comes from investments in hedge funds or private market strategies in credit, real estate, natural resources, or infrastructure. This broad, multi-asset class, diversified approach ensures that endowment portfolios aren't overly concentrated in any single risk. When one area struggles, say if stock markets are declining significantly, other parts of the portfolio can provide stability. Finally, endowments are highly selective about how they invest in various asset classes. Endowments don't pick stocks or real estate investments directly. They invest in specialist fund managers. Endowments believe that subject matter experts with differentiated insights in their markets will ultimately deliver the best returns. A great real estate investor likely isn't the best distressed credit investor, and vice versa. Endowments look for fund managers with deep experience and genuine competitive advantages in the markets in which they invest. This means finding fund managers with repeatable processes, differentiated insights, and the ability to generate outsized returns. For endowments, picking the right fund managers is as important as picking the right markets. Of course, core to all of what I just described, the thing that fundamentally underpins the endowment-style approach is a long-term investment mindset. Endowments invest with a long time horizon. These portfolios are built to ride out market cycles, to invest in strategies where patience is rewarded. This long-term orientation is what makes the entire approach work and what has allowed endowments to deliver strong, consistent, risk-adjusted returns. For years, this endowment approach has only been available to institutions and the ultra-wealthy. Even though individual investors are often also long-term oriented, think about the time horizon for retirement investments, individual investors haven't been able to replicate the other endowment ingredients. High minimums, long lockups, and access barriers have kept most individual investors out of the private markets and specialist fund managers that have been the cornerstones of endowment portfolios. We built IME Invest to change that, to bring true endowment-style investing, these diversified portfolios with public and private investments, invested in institutional quality specialist managers, to everyone, because we believe everyone should have the opportunity to invest like an endowment.